My name is Bobby Aitken, and I'm a sound designer with our company Remarkable Projects. We first started speaking about the project over a year ago, and it's been in development for a long while, and we probably had 10 months lead up to it. So we had 10 months working with the animators. There's a lot of animated video, three-dimensional animated video content. There's a bunch of animatronics, so we worked with the animatronics designers. The biggest challenge, I think, in terms of system integration was the fact that we have no staff on site. You know, this living piece of technology gets switched on at 9 o'clock in the morning and runs until the end of the day. So we have a new audience potentially through this every 6 minutes. So in a day, we can do 60 shows with no real technical intervention. The loudspeaker and amplifier layouts for each room we took into consideration first of all. Playing the whole thing back and working out the timings was an enormous job. Making sure that happens is one thing, but making sure the audio follows all of that was a real trick, and that's where Lewis came in. Reliability is everything for us. You know, we have no real trained audio people on site. The Quattrocanalis get switched on every morning at 9 o'clock. They get used for 12-hour days, and they get switched off at 9 o'clock in the evening. We haven't had any failures. The ammonia software we haven't really touched since we set the thing up in Birmingham. It's used extensively. You know, we use EQ on it a lot. We've done a lot of ganging. It's been great. It's worked really well for us. It definitely provides more than we need. The biggest challenges, I think, on the project were just the kind of realization of the spatial effects that we're trying to achieve. There's no place where we simply play back stereo. Reliability of QLab systems and of the amplifier technology is entirely important. That's why we chose QLab, and that's why we chose Powersoft. I think Scott and Lewis and Fergus and I all feel that the project's worked out really well. Producers are very happy with it. It's selling well. But you know, the more personal thing, you know, it works for me as we walk around from one room to another. You know, it really feels like we're in a working research laboratory.
My name is Miranda, and I am an audio systems designer. I also do a little bit of control. The company that I work for is Audiotora. We got involved in this process very early because we're not only doing the audio design, but we're also doing the control design for things. And the two need to interact. So we helped the set designers a little bit very early on by allowing them to figure out how to control and how to move the flow of people through the attraction. That was paired to the audio systems as well, so the two work as one. So we integrate the audio and control systems by using QLab and an AMX system, and they network to each other. So QLab is triggering and playing back all the cues, all the audio cues, and then we have AMX talking to QLab via a network protocol. So the two can combine and having audio playback all the time, as well as control from physical interfaces. The Dante network is incredibly important for this job because it not only works as the main audio distribution network for every amplifier and every source in every room, but we're also using it to send time code to all the clocks everywhere in the attraction. And these clocks are being used by the cast to be able to know where the timings have to land so that they know how to progress through the whole installation. The amplifiers and the Dante network are one pretty much. So we have the ability to send any signal at any point, at any time, to any particular amplifier. So that has been really well integrated in this project. So here we have just a subset of the whole set of Powersoft amplifiers. We have another 3 nodes distributed just to to make runs easier to go back to each amplifier depending on where the rooms are. Then we have the main AMX brains in here, and that gives us physical inputs and physical outputs to control the system. The Powersoft amplifiers are networked via Dante to all the other nodes that we have in the installation. Similarly, the AMX brain is communicating with all our other nodes in the installation via a network. Dante microphone inputs, as well as inputs and outputs to distribute things like timecode, again using Dante. And also the groupings that we have allows us to control rooms very, very intuitively. So having the racks, we know where each amplifier is, and then having those groups within those racks allows us to control the exact sources that we're after. Additionally, we were able to do processing within the amplifiers that was easy to copy and distribute to all the similar loudspeakers within the installation. That saved us a lot of time. The Harmonia software allows us to monitor every source, which again, as you can imagine, in a job this big, it can be confusing at times if you don't know what to look for. It was very helpful to have a user-friendly software in this installation. In terms of audio, the biggest challenge was understanding how to sequence audio to different locations and making sure that the distribution was as reliable as possible. One thing to consider is that this is not a permanent installation and it needs to tour. So finding the best way of packaging this and redeploying and making sure that signal distribution was correct when we're moving this installation from one place to the other, that's really important for us. And being able to just power on the system and it just works, that's really good for us. What we need in this exhibition is something that at the start of the day, an operator can just unmute the amps and everything works. And that has been the case. We need to leave these amplifiers on 24/7 for months and simply just mute and unmute at the start and end of the day. And they run for hours. So reliability is a very important factor in the success of this installation. We have several loudspeakers in this installation. There's several types. But with one amplifier, we are able to control what we send to every loudspeaker. So control the frequency range that they're receiving, add EQ depending on which loudspeaker we're using, and change limiter settings depending on which loudspeaker we're using. The Dante capabilities of the amplifier were a big plus in deciding to choose these amplifiers. One of the biggest challenges in this installation was just managing the number of channels that we have. And the capabilities of the amplifiers by using Dante and having the inbuilt DSP allowed us to have a compact solution for a multi-channel problem.
My name is Scott Willsallen. I work for Audiotora Proprietary Limited, and this project is a combination of Audiotora and Remarkable Projects UK. I'm a director of Audiotora and a partner in Remarkable Projects UK. So they were very good at explaining this isn't about animatronics so much. There are animatronics involved, but it's more about using VR and 3D video and the audio that goes with that to create an experience that people won't have had before. Walking with dinosaurs has happened and was a very successful thing. Reproducing that wasn't the goal for the producers. The goal was to do something a little bit different. The audience walked through this whole thing, and rather than sitting in a seat and having a performance occur in front of you, you walk through the space and actors who are scientists or tour guides or whatever are interacting with that audience. So what makes this unique is the use of 3D vision and 3D audio to convince the audience that they are genuinely going back in time. They're driving across a valley in the Cretaceous period with dinosaurs roaming around them. They then arrive at a base that's been built, and there's so much detail, and anyone that walks through will tell you the level of detail in terms of set dressing, in terms of signage. It's remarkable. It's an immersive experience in the true sense. How detailed is the sound from our point of view, the goal was not how do we make it cool, it's how do we make it realistic. There are 35 Quattrocanali 1604 amplifiers distributed in 4 amplifier racks. So not every channel is full, but we are something in the order of 130 audio channels distributed through the system. From an input point of view, there are 3 QLab systems running anywhere from 40 to 60 output channels. And the reason for the 3 systems is system A is for the time travel vehicles, because there's 24 channels of audio in those, and the pre-entry scenery wall. Machine B deals with the lookout, and machine C deals with everything else. So machine C is the heaviest load, but all of them feed onto the same Dante network, and the audio channels are picked off as needed by the amplifier channels. All of the loudspeakers on the project are AUDAC. Every room has a number of what we call Atmos speakers, the speakers that set the tone of the room. So in the Path Lab, there's lots of refrigeration noise, air conditioning noise. Again, they're all hidden, so as an audience member looking at a window, you can't see loudspeakers. In most cases, it was a pretty low power requirement. That's one part of the overall criteria for selection. The next was DSP. We weren't fixed on having DSP in the amplifier, but it needed to be somewhere. So that's another factor. Signal transport, getting audio into the amplifiers. We were already on a Dante backbone, so by having amplifiers that were that could take an audio input via Dante, meant we didn't have to buy external devices to convert that audio to a format that the amplifier could take. So Dante was another factor. Remotely controllable and configurable over an Ethernet network, that's another factor. But typically 8-channel platforms are more cost effective. And within the 4-channel options, and there are many, there are only a few which are Dante compliant, so that reduced the field further. And then it came down to how much are we paying per channel. And when we've already thrown away all of the products that would be questionable in terms of reliability, the only thing that was left was Powersoft. It meant for us, we spent half as much money on racks. Now, we didn't spend anywhere near as much money on racks as we spent on loudspeakers or on amplifiers, but by not spending another £5,000 or £7,000 or £8,000 on racks means we can buy more loudspeakers, buy more amplifier channels. And really, the thing that the audience experiences isn't an amplifier rack. It's audio channels. You know, it's the density of loudspeakers and the number of discrete inputs to those loudspeakers. That's what enhances the experience. So right the way along, our goal was as many audio channels as we can in every zone for the believability. So if there's a fridge, the fridge should sound like a fridge, because they're not. They're just cupboards on wheels with lights in them and a glass door. They're not fridges, but they sound like fridges. The air conditioning ducts sound like air conditioning ducts. All of that stuff just plays into the believability. All of these sound sources are pre-recorded. The only live sound sources are amplification of voice, all of which is deliberate. So in the case of this room, it's a radio microphone that the scientist wears. In the case of some of the other rooms, it's a microphone with a cable, with a switch. Everything beyond that is pre-recorded and triggered either in the timeline or by the cast pressing a button. It would have meant a lot more cable, much longer to install, much harder to diagnose when there's a fault. We knew that once we handed this over, it was a complex beast we were handing over. And we were handing it over to a team of 2 technicians who were not only responsible for sound and the show control system, but also the animatronics, the video systems, the lighting systems, anything that plugs into power, they are responsible for. It's a huge, huge scope of responsibility. We wanted to make our systems as little effort for them as possible. Our first experience of Harmonia was downloading it an hour before the amplifiers started to get connected to the control network. It's straightforward. It's very straightforward. It's in terms of user friendliness, the Harmonia software, from not having ever experienced it before, was very simple and very visual, which made it easier to pick up quickly. The measures for success are definitely the level of engagement of the kids, but what's really interesting, the harder audience, the audience that don't want to be impressed by it, by the time you get sort of 2/3 of the way through, they're just as into it as the kids. You know, the young adults who don't really want to be impressed by the whole thing, but they brought their kids along, and as long as the kids have a good time, it's fine. By the time they get into the lookout and you know, they get a real fright when things turn bad in there, that's really satisfying. And that's a great measure of success. It means that they want it to be bad, but by the time they've enjoyed 2/3 of the experience, they're well into it and really enjoying it, and have kind of put away all of the cynicism about the storytelling and are just enjoying the experience. There's a greater expectation on quality of experience now than there ever has been. Technology has helped bring a level of user experience to everybody, and that's almost free. So when people are paying for an experience like this, the expectations are pretty high. This kind of experience is competing with theme parks where we have to meet that expectation. A theme park will build something and operate it for years, so their return on investment is easier to reach because they don't have to rebuild it every 3 months. But this environment has to compete with that audience, or for that audience. So the more believable this is, the better this will rate against its competitors. We think this is quite special. It's using really, really beautiful animation, exceptional sound design in terms of not just inventing stuff that's meant to be scary for drama, but creating sounds that have some anatomical basis. Thanks for watching. For more information, please visit www.dinosaursinthewild.com or come and see the show.